Yo my people, we're back again for another video. Hope everyone is doing well. These are my top 8 Crystal Palace players. This of course will be in no particular order really. No current players such as Mark Gay, Elise, Eze and Mateta who've been doing recently well, to be honest, in that as well. This will include current long serving players and past players which have left the club of course. So we've got a lot to get through today. You're really going to enjoy it. Trust me. So make sure to like, share, subscribe before we start. And yes, we'll kick it off with number 1. Like I said, in no particular order. So yes, let's get going. Number 1, Wilfried Zaha, 61 goals and 27 assists for him in the Premier League. Looking like Vieira really got the best out of him last season. Overall, 83 career goals in 430 appearances for the Eagles. What a player. Once he started playing, he was on fire. And of course, he won us that famous penalty in the playoff final in 2013, scored by Kevin Phillips to get us promoted to the Premier League. So in reality, if it wasn't for him, we probably would have been relegated 5 years ago. I remember we did, sell him to Man United for a season. He came back less than a year later, and we signed him on a permanent, and he was just brilliant. You know, he's one of our best players. You know, we relied on him a lot, hence to why he's still known, and he was back then as our talisman. To be fair, scored some banging goals. You know, his link-up play with certain players is brilliant, and he's always got the quality that we need in that, you know, to pull us out the hat, out of absolutely nothing when it's not going our way. So, yeah, it looks like he had a brilliant season last season, 15 goals in all competitions. Yeah, he's Palace through and through, born in '92, and he'll always be red and blue for me. And number 2, a more recent player who has left, and it's pretty unlikely he's not coming back to Crystal Palace, Conor Gallagher. Now, when this guy burst onto the scene at the beginning of last season, he was one of the best cams that I've ever seen play for Crystal Palace. You know, 8 goals and 5 assists last season, a pretty good solid season for him, absolutely brilliant. You know, he's on loan with Chelsea, of course, and he's probably going to stay there. It's very unlikely he will re-sign for Crystal Palace on a permanent or on a 2-year loan. He was very consistent. He was always pressing, put the opposition players under pressure. Some of his link-up play and his techniques and his movement on the pitch for some of the build-up towards some of the goals he scored last season was absolutely sensational. It's just something I've never really seen. It was top-notch, top-class, and it was really just outstanding, to be honest with you. You know, his best goal that he scored was in that 3-1 win against Everton at home back in December of last year when he scored late on. It was an absolute scorcher. Top bins, top right-hand corner, beating England's number 1, Jordan Pickford and that. So what a player he was, a true talent that I will never forget. And number 3, Aaron Wamba. He made his debut for Crystal Palace in the first team early 2018, and he never really looked back, to be honest, on his career after playing in that game. You know, he was top notch, he was simply class, nice and solid, a real good impression for a debut for a youngster. Brilliant. You know, I mean, he went on to, of course, maintaining a consistent, you know, first team spot at Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson. You know, he just thrived. He was just consistent. You know, he became the best tackler in Europe at one point as well. I can remember what a player he brought through the ranks in the academy. You know, a very difficult defender to get past on, because he played at right back as well. A very difficult defender, you know, to try and get past in one-on-one situations if you're the opposition attacker. It was very difficult to get past. Who knows if Palace will get him back on loan for this season potentially, or if we did buy him back permanently. He's gone quiet recently, and I would want him. I would take him back. He's a brilliant defender, and I was really gutted when we lost him to Man United. So yeah, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, a brilliant talent, and hopefully he will make his return to Crystal Palace someday. Number 4, Andy Johnson's magic. He wears a magic hat. Of course, it's Andy Johnson. Oh, he was absolutely superb. Our highest ever Premier League top scorer in a single season back in 04-05 in that season when we got relegated. He got 21 goals, was a brilliant penalty taker as well. Overall, he scored 85 goals in 4 seasons for Crystal Palace. And yeah, it was always, you know, getting in double figures every season. You know, it was just absolutely unbelievable going forward. He always just, you knew he was going to score every time he got on the box, every time he was in a one-on-one situation, every time he had the chance to shoot, and that, you know, absolutely brilliant. You know, was emphatic in front of goal. Simple as, you know, always had his shooting boots on constantly. You know, we won't talk about the second spell when he was at Crystal Palace, but yeah, that guy was just class, and the fans still sing his name. They still sing his name. That's a true legend, a true icon of the club. And at number 5, Ian Wright, 118 goals for Crystal Palace, you know, was spotted by Crystal Palace after a tip-off from Dulwich Hamlet just down the road from the club. So, yeah, what a buy that was for Crystal Palace, really. You know what I mean? What a pickup, I should say. You know, picked him up out of nowhere, and Crystal Palace and Ian Wright really never looked back over the whole situation. You know what I mean? Scored twice for Palace in the famous 1990 FA Cup final, nearly won it. Unfortunately, we drew 3-3, and in the replay we lost 1-0. Disappointing, but you know, he made history there, and it's a game that all Crystal Palace fans will never truly forget, even the ones like myself who have just, you know, started recently sort of supporting the club in a way, if you know what I mean, over the last 7 to 10 years and that. So yeah, absolutely brilliant player, an absolute legend. His end product was always a 10 out of 10. He's a Palace icon. He always had that spark and that quality. He's a bit like he was a Wilfred Zaha back in the early 1990s. Really could pull Palace out the hat, you know, with a quality finish, a quality goal, a quality pass, and a quality assist. What a legend he was, an absolute brilliant player. I mean, overall, Ian Wright and Crystal Palace, I mean, wow. I mean, you will never look back. I mean, what he achieved at Arsenal and other clubs as well, because of his time at Crystal Palace, because of the way they saw him play, will never be forgotten. And at number 6, we've got Yannick Balasi, a very skillful and entertaining and energetic player to watch constantly. You know, he was an absolute brilliant player. He would always, you know, make up a trick or a decent skill out of nothing, really. You know, he was absolutely superb. His link-up play between him and Wilf would absolutely cause defenders nightmares. You know what I mean? Even Van Dijk, when he was at Southampton, struggled to cope with a pair of them. Do you know what I mean? So they were pretty. I mean, he was pretty good. It was all good with Balasi's build-up and that. You know, he had some technique. He scored some brilliant goals. His movement, his pace. You know, he would just be down the wing like a lightning bolt. 13 goals and 20 assists in 144 appearances for the winger. Every Palace fan has got to remember that famous skill that he did at White Hart Lane back in, I believe, 2014. Balasi was absolutely top-notch on his day, and he would cause defenders mayhem. Number 7, James Macarthur, over 200 appearances, 19 goals, a hard-working central defensive mid. You don't get many players like him. He's currently 35. He's probably only got another season in him left, but he'll probably get a testimony maybe within the next couple of years, depending on how long he'll stay at Palace. If he even sign another contract as well, you know, he's that kind of player that's always consistent, never lays a foot wrong. You know, he rarely has a bad game, to be fair, and he's such a good leader on the pitch. He doesn't tolerate no one. If anyone's not playing and having a good game, we'll let them know about it in the changing room, on the pitch, on the touchline. Anyway, he's always there for the team. You know, he's such a good player, and we'll miss him when he retires and when he eventually leaves Palace, you know, because he keeps that team together at times. You know, he's a good role model and sets a brilliant example to the younger players at Crystal Palace and the rest of the players within the team as well. And yeah, I mean, when he's captain, that guy is just a top-notch player, honestly. And yeah, he's amazing, really. You know, you don't get players like him, like I said. So yeah, number 7, James Macarthur. Number 8, he is the current all-time top goal scorer, most recently, Mr. Clinton Morrison, with 113 goals in his 2 spells at Crystal Palace, and that was 1997 to 2002 and 2005 to 2008, which was his second spell, of course. In my opinion, he was a very underrated player. You know, I mean, his finishing, his movement, he was the definition, really, of a goal machine, and will always be one of our own, you know, no matter what. He is a true Palace legend, and I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves, in my opinion. So yeah, number 8, Clint Morrison. So there you have it, people. Those are my top 8 best Crystal Palace players. Players that have just given it all. Players that give more than 100%, in my opinion. Players that you don't get that often, that come around the corner and that, always hard working, always putting the effort, always putting 10 out of 10 performances consistently to their best abilities. Let me know if I missed out on any players. I probably did, but those were my top 8 best players. So yeah, let me know your top 8, your top 10, your top 5 in the comment section down below. Follow me on all my socials: TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram and Twitter. Go and give me a follow, check me out on that as well. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We're on the way. We're very close, potentially, to getting 2k subs within the next few weeks, months, who knows. So yes, up the Palace, and I'll be back with Crystal Palace Transfer Weekly this week as well. We've got a lot to talk about. Still quite a few transfers, possible new signings on the way, so I cannot wait. And yes, we'll bring on the new season. Got my predictions coming around the corner soon at the end of this month for the Premier League, and I will see you then. Cannot wait.